Now it is my honor to announce the central roundtable of the summit, what the future of work will mean for women. This important roundtable will be moderated by Ms. Maja Piščević, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council of the United States. I will give Ms. Maja the honor to present their guests and to introduce you with them.
First of all, I'm really sorry that we're a little bit late. So the order of speakers will probably have to change a little bit, and I have to say that John will have to leave us at 4:45. Is that right, John? 4:45, actually. So
yes.
Yeah, so I will try to really congest my introduction, but I have to say that I'm really grateful for the organizers of this important session. First of all, Jacqueline, and then the entire team, Yelisavet and others on this fantastic engagement. And the timely initiative, and I'm not sure at the time when you started conceptualizing this idea, were you aware of coming COVID and actually becoming an elephant in the room of some kind, because everything that we want to talk about today has been accelerated. The necessity of changes that we have to make, not only in the way we work, but also in the way we live and conduct our lives and businesses, has changed and will change in ways that we are perhaps not even aware about today. So now looking at all of you here, and I'm sorry that Zuzana Hargitay will not be able to be with us. She was caught in travel, I heard, but I think we have still a good group of people experts who can talk about their thinking about this age. So I would like to start with John, given that he is leaving, and I have to start with a small disclaimer. Saying that John is my dear friend, but also a professional that I deeply respect and have been working with for a couple of years now on the Balkan dialogues, and now continuing while I'm continuing my work at the Atlantic Council. And I think that we are really blessed to have John here in Serbia and in the region, because this is the regional initiative talking about the Development Finance Corporation that John has become the general manager of. So John, starting with you, let me ask you the first question, because I don't know if you will be able to make it for the second. When we speak about the future of work, we think about new enterprises and firms to be developed based on new technologies. How do you see the potential of tech enterprises developed in the Western Balkans, and what kind of jobs will those enterprises create and require?
Thank you. So, Maja, first off, guilty as charged, and you are a dear friend and very fortunate to have been a partner and colleague for a long time. Before I make my remarks, I would really love to thank the organizers of this event, not just for bringing together such a wonderful panel, many of whom I'm very to call a friend, timely war. And as Maja mentioned, I am new to DFC, and DFC is a very nascent initiative by the US government, and it's America's Development Bank that really started work in October of 2019. So it's just clocking. But what's important to note is that our work is foundationally rooted in female empowerment. So one of our development goals, not just a program that we support, development goals, is female empowerment by either supporting businesses that help improve their lives and expand the tools available to women, or that directly empower female entrepreneurs and business owners. So now your question, Maja, to predict exactly what those technology-driven jobs of the future are, especially with our friend Dejan on this panel, who's absolutely brilliant. He'll give you a much better sense of what that probably looks like from a tangible basis. But I'm going to answer this question actually from on a personal level, since my wife and I are parents to 3 daughters. So, you know, as we sit back and think about what they'll need, for us to pretend that we know what the world will look like for them when they graduate in the 2030s or 40s, right, would be probably intellectually dishonest at best. Our best bet is to actually anticipate the hard and the soft skills that we think don't work to be competitive, irrespective of what those most likely technology-enabled jobs look like. So I think I would actually take the same approach in sort of thinking about your question. So there are hard skills that we're fairly certain they'll need. And again, Dan and others will have a lot sharper and more thoughtful insight into this. But from my perspective, I think being fluent in the technologies of today at a bare minimum are necessary, and providing opportunity not just for some of the things like coding, other things actually government is serving others. So I'm speaking to you from sunny Podgorica. My last meeting was actually with just an academy that's working to provide foundational skills to those seeking careers in tech-enabled jobs. And so those foundational skills is critical. So that's one hard skill. And the second, just to be realistic, is English language fluency. It continues to be the lingua franca for the technology space and much of global business. And so those are hard skills that for women in the region, particularly young women, I think it's important to impart both of them on. I think that the next soft sort of skill set is a little bit more challenging, but I would argue probably more important. And the first is really critical thinking, right? So if machines are so powerful and the technological process is so powerful, we need to be able to think for ourselves. And you can't simply think algorithmically, step by step, because machines are going to do that a lot better than we do, and they already do. And so I think teaching people how to deal with problems, how to optimize within constraints, given a certain set of variables, really how to think for themselves. And candidly, this isn't just a challenge that the education systems in Western Balkans are facing. We're facing this everywhere around the world, where how do we arm people to think for themselves in an era where our added tools are going to be more helpful. And the second and last sort of soft skill that I think is important is getting young women comfortable taking risks the way they're. So of course nobody wants to fail, but not being afraid to try. And we see it even with our daughters, and I've seen it with young women who have worked on teams with me and for me. They often are a little bit more cautious to take a step outside of a comfort zone for fear of either rocking the boat. It's a cultural element, and the responsibility is all of ours to push young women to feel comfortable taking this risk and to be comfortable bearing the results, good, bad, or different. As we step back and think about, and I'll answer probably some of your follow-up questions very quickly now because I don't have to go. What are we DFC here to do, and how can we help in this process? And so, for better or for worse, I think the challenges that female entrepreneurs or young women who want to enter the tech-enabled space are facing are very comparable in some ways to what their male counterparts are facing. And so first and foremost, there's a lack of access to capital, the initial financing, that angel sort of seed friends and family round that's available everywhere around the world. That's a funding gap that we will work with our partners and help to close. But the second element is probably more crucial, which is some mentoring and some helping take what is really raw, tremendous talent in the tech space and help it evolve to business building, right? So how do you help someone with an idea turn it into a concept? How do you help someone build a business that is meant for customers and not just for users, right? And that's where I think, look, the standing on the shoulders of giants like Dan and Microsoft's work, I think is tremendous, right? So the value add that they've brought above and beyond simply their investment in the country and in the region, but also helping bring more American companies to be involved and to pass on know-how and to build up sort of the knowledge base, I think would be crucial. And that's true on a regional level, because I'm starting to get a lot of the research and studies about everybody has the same question. What do we need to do for female entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship as a whole to push us to the next stage of the step function, right? What's the next step of development? And undoubtedly, it's not just access to capital, all those things, but it's sharing regional experiences, good and bad, to learn from. And so again, apologies for my time constraint, but very grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this discussion, eager to learn, and to the other panelists. And again, AFA, thank you for your great work.
Thank you so much, Don, and we really wish you all the luck that you will need in your endeavor in the Western Balkans. For the rest, I know you have it already, but some portion of luck is always good to have, and we're lucky to have you here. So now moving to the giant, as John announced, Dejan, for whom I also had another disclaimer, another dear friend of mine. But you know, Serbia is a small country, and we all know each other that belong to a close generation, although John is not my generation, definitely. He could be my son, I shouldn't say that. So very welcome to you, Dan. Dan, you are now the CTO of Microsoft Development Center in Serbia. And I have to say first that I'm so happy and so grateful that Microsoft has sent you back to Belgrade, because we miss you a lot. And we really see you. I remember you back from the AmCham days when you were one of the best board presidents and a true business leader and a visionary. And I'm looking forward to being able to work with you more in future. So for this occasion, I would perhaps like to move you a little bit out of your comfort zone, which is pure tech things. I would like you to become a kind of futurologist and tell us how you see the future demands of the global work market. How will some sectors change, for instance, finance, education, health? Which skills will be in demand for the millions of people who will be trying to keep their jobs, but also to find their place in a new global market? So a lot of that for you, but I'm sure you would love to answer that.
Thank you, Maja. I have to say, I definitely do not see that future without women, that's for sure. And in fact, there is a strong role for women to play. But let me step back here. I have to say that I'm flattered with your remarks and John's remarks, right? Especially about this giant thing. I have to say, you know, we in Microsoft, we like to consider ourselves as giants, but at the end of the day, we could be giants because we stand on the shoulders of our customers who really use our technologies, and not only our customers, but billions of people worldwide that actually have the value and that see the value from the technology. Now about the future. Honestly, you don't put me outside of my comfort zone, I have to say. In Microsoft, we do things like scenario planning. We like to paint the world of tomorrow. What would the world look like 3 to 5 years down the road? 10 years down the road, what are the most probable scenarios that we are going to see in the future? And based on those most probable scenarios, we discuss what are the skills that we need to seed today in the company? What are the people that we need to hire today? What is the profile of the people in order to be ready to execute towards the well-being and the good of our customers and consumers 5 to 10 years down the road? So this scenario planning, or if you will, we call it sometimes a 3-horizon planning, based on the studies from McKinsey, is something that we always engage. Now, definitely, if you take a look at the development of the technology over the last, say, 3 to 5 years, it's way bigger, and the impact of the technology over the course of 3 to 5 years is way bigger than, say, 30 years, the previous 30 years. So definitely technology is going to have, I wouldn't say a dominant role, but it will be present everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And the technology will be led by all kinds of artificial intelligence, machine learning. So machines will have a lot of, I would say, contribution to the analysis that we people are going to make. And therefore, what is very important to underline as a fact number one that I'd like to say is the need for emotional intelligence and human skills. So these are the key areas that we need to see now, to develop now. And of course, if you take a look at women, those kind of things are by far more demonstratable. Those kind of skills are by far more aligned to women than to the male population. So that's why it's very important to invest into those skills now and really nurture the population and encourage the population that has by far more saying about those skills, which is women population. If you take a look at some of the industry scenarios of the future, you mentioned healthcare, you mentioned finance. You know, let's just stick around healthcare and how healthcare can get creative. And I will say one thing that is like almost inevitable, right? With the technology being present, technology generates all kinds of data, millions, billions, terabytes, petabytes of data. That data comes from everywhere. That data comes from the human beings, from the living organisms as well. And that data comes from genes, comes from all of us. That data was not able to be captured before because the technology did not exist before, but now the technology exists. So with all kinds of creativity, we will be able to program computers of the future to definitely collect and gather by far more information about ourselves than we can do. And therefore, you can say that the machines of the future will be able to know ourselves by far better than us, than how we know ourselves. So how does that translate to the area of healthcare, for instance? When you go to a pharmacy, there will not be just an aspirin. There will be an aspirin for Dejan, and there will be an aspirin for John, and there will be an aspirin for Tanja and for Maja. So precision medication is something that I call almost inevitable, because the path to that future is already there. And the creative skills that we need to nurture on how people interact with machines and computers is key to that. So that's just one example. The second example is obviously analytical thinking as a skill. In that sea of data, people need to understand what really matters, and based on that being the situation to make very good, predictable and predicting decisions of the future. And one key skill that we all need to start developing now is the following, which is lifelong learning. There won't be a situation where I graduate at the university or get my Master of Science and I basically say, I'm done, I will get a job now and, you know, long live and prosper until my retirement. No, everything changes. And 1-2 years down the road, I have to be ready to requalify myself. I have to be ready to empower other people to requalify themselves as well. So, you know, those are some of the skills that we need to start developing now in order to be ready for the future and executing that future for the good of consumers, for the good of society. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. You kind of hypnotized me, and I was not ready to stop listening to what you were saying. And I think this is really important and really interesting. And one thing that it's common to what both John and you raised is that you took the narratives out of prioritizing the technology itself and becoming tech natives or tech savvies, but you talked about critical thinking, about emotional intelligence, about things that we can do, and very importantly, that don't really cost much. And that's always a problem here, which we ask ourselves, how much is it? And we cannot afford something because that's the rich West and so on. These are things that we can actually work on. So thank you on that. And now I'm moving to a third panelist. And again, my third disclaimer to my dear friend, Tanja Miščević, whom I deeply, deeply respect for everything she's been doing for years as a chief negotiator for EU accession and teaching, and now being an example for us for young girls, not for me, I'm older, but for young girls and many generations coming of a real work that a professional has to do. And at this point, being the Deputy Secretary General of a very important organizations for regional cooperation, for economic progress, the Regional Cooperation Council. And as such, I would like to talk to you about a study that was recently published, which, if I'm not wrong, RCC produced jointly with UNDP. And it's titled Women's Economic Empowerment Areas for Joint Action in the Western Balkans. So my impression is that one of the key objectives of this initiative is to inspire discussion about unleashing the women power in the Western Balkans. One of the issues that is also specifically covered by the study considers bridging the digital gender divide and promoting the participation of women in STEM careers. During the earlier presentations today, we heard some disappointing data that, for instance, girls in Serbia are 10 times less prone to choose careers and education in STEM careers than the boys. And that is really disappointing. So I think your study is very important, but I'd like to hear from you. Why is this important for women of the Western Balkans, and can it be done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much, Maya. It is my pleasure to be here. First of all, to see you again after some time, but also to listen both Mr. Jovanović and Mr. Cvetković. Of course, that I know Mr. Cvetković, we are the same generation, but not in person, following very closely his developments and explanations for all of us non-IT people to try to understand IT, and wishing very good luck to Mr. Jovanović with his endeavor for the region as such, and dear Yngve, dear friend that we worked on the EU path of Serbia. Well, actually, I would like to continue on both main topics of Mr. Jovanović and Mr. Cvetković, and this is the real empowerment. So it's not only to give the opportunity, but also for the women to be bold, and that is the name of the game. In that respect, we started something which is jointly with the UNDP. The initiative that only a few days ago had its launching. The name of the initiative is Women's Economic Empowerment Areas for Joint Action in the Western Balkans, of which it has several important goals. But one of those goals is encouraging women's inclusion in STEM education and careers. There are many others. Let me just enlist several of them that could also make a difference in terms of the women empowerment in the region that we are belonging to, like narrowing digital skill gaps that boost innovation and growth, enable women's leadership in the economy, which is one of the huge potentials, but not used properly up to now, and of course increase women's labor force participation and entrepreneurship. As you, Maya, mentioned, as STEAM is the fastest growing sector, the number of women in STEAM is declining. This is some type of paradox which we have to deal with. The reason is that 80% of workers in STEM are men, while women comprise 70% of workers in something which we know as women's profession, education, health, and welfare occupations. And striking data that we gathered through Balkan Barometer, but also other public poolings that we checked, less than 1% of 15-year-old girls have an interest in ICT careers globally. Gradually from STEM, many women choose to work in women-predominant professions. And this is, as we understood, due the two reasons. The first one is the failure in so-called male professions, which is present and it's evident. And it is true, women has to fight much more in terms to reach the same level in those male predominant occupations. But on the other hand, there are good examples to show that the success is possible. And policy and legal framework shows that all economies in the region, that means Western Balkans 6, have well-developed gender equality policy, almost fully aligned with the EU directives. In some of the economies, the education policy is gendered, but all of us from the Balkans lack focus on STEAM. And therefore, promotion of women in STEM is missing entirely. One, again, thing that I would like all of us to think of is the employment rate. The employment rate in EU, and that resemble the Western Balkan, will make a substantial leap if women have more equal opportunities, STEM education, and of course at the labor market. Some data shows that EU employment rate will raise from 0.5 to 0.8% by 2030. And 2.1 to 3.5 percentage points by 2050. Those are the numbers that we have to have in mind. Something which we also saw during the pandemic is one important aspect of STEM, and we should not neglect that. And this is the digitalization is important. And this demand for such innovative and sustainable economic professions will only increase in the future. But on the other hand, we are also facing the fact that not many women are capable to use the opportunities of digitalization. As Dejan said, all of us, we have to catch up during the pandemic and learn, like I learned the Zoom. That was the platform that I've never learned before. Not only me, but all of us from the RCC and all of us, our partners from the administration and in the region. So let me finish with two important things. STEAM education is without any doubt shaping our future. And we at the RCC, we are very confirmed that our job is to promote and support multi-pronged outreach efforts to promote STEM literacy and ensure that the future workforce skill in STEM is available. But we need to treat STEM education as a continuous effort, not only at the faculties, but that means at the university, but from elementary school and even before that to make them easy floating in that discussion regarding the choosing the position or future profession, having that as one of the opportunity from the early age. I will stop here, but ready to answer any question. Thank you, Maja.
Thank you so much, Tanja. This was very, very important, and I really want to stress out that RCC is doing immensely important work these days, these months, and these years. And I'm so glad that you're part of it, because we are all looking with huge expectations on the future results that you will take the lead on in terms of regional cooperation and creating the common market. I'm also very happy that each three of you, although coming from different areas of expertise, have had some common denominators in your addresses. And I'm just curious to see how our fourth panelist, whom I have to admit I haven't had the opportunity to meet before, but I'm grateful we have this chance to do that now. To start with, I hope, Yngve, that I will rightly pronounce your name. Is it Yngve Engström?
Perfect.
Thank
Very
you
good.
so much. Thank you. Yngve is talking to us from Sweden, which is his home country, which is very nice, and we're grateful to have you here. And now let me start by saying that key objectives of the EU gender equality strategy by 2025 put forward by the European Commission are closing gender gaps in the labor market and achieving equal participation across different sectors of the economy. So given that on the level of the EU, 32% of women have only basic digital skills compared to 25% of men, what is Europe or European Union planning to do to address this important challenge?
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you at this forum. Well, first of all, gender equality is a core value of the European Union, and it goes beyond moral obligation. It's basically linked to a question that the gender equality and equal conditions is imperative for economic growth, prosperity, and governance, and it's a clear potential for increased economy by having stronger gender equality. And as the previous speakers have been mentioning, the importance of the digital economy and digital agenda, it goes without saying that this gender gap should be closed for the sake not only of women, but the sake of all of us and the growth of the economies. So it's a very important issue. And the EU is obviously doing a lot of things. Sometimes we're doing maybe too many things at the same time. But I would look at a couple of tools that we're using. And there is the European Institute for Gender Equality, as we have such an institute. And they're doing a gender equality index, a monitoring tool for measuring this kind of data and making it possible to address them. And this index that we have been looking for is that there is a progress in general on gender equality, but it's quite slow, and it's about 1 point every 2 years improvement. Which means that it would take 60 years from now to reach gender equality with that pace. So it's obviously not sufficient, I would say. One area where it has been quite a lot of improvement is power. The kind of power and decision making by women, where the improvement has been up to 65% the last few years, since 2010. And this shows that change is possible with the right policy mix by each country in the region. And also what's interesting for this debate today, or this question that you asked, is that due to the pandemic, we've realized that the digitalization is extremely important. Tanja mentioned the use of Zoom. I can sit from Sweden today, and it's not really a difference from sitting in Belgrade working for most things, until we can meet in person again, which I hope will happen, of course, very soon. But so there has been the latest report has showed the effects of digitalization on the world of work and consequences for gender equality. And this is quite worrying because it's shown that the gender equality is not right there and that the gaps exist. And this has made the pandemic even worse for women than for men during this period. So there's something we have to look at when we're doing this, and it's not only about the digital skills in the kind of separate sector, but it's also looking at this as a cross-cutting area for issues, and it's the ICT education, employment, and research. But it also looks at the kind of across the board, because of the situation where digital skills are essential whatever we do. And it will, of course, with the development in the world, it would be even more if we look at agriculture, if we look at fishing, transport systems, any type of work will be more and more dependent on digital skills. So if we don't address this, we will lose out a lot of the possibilities for everybody in the economy and the ability to get jobs right. What was mentioned also, Tanja mentioned and you asked her about the study. So this is one of the types of work that we're doing as well. I would also like to mention work that we're doing in Serbia together with UN Women. And this is also policy-based work to support the government in policies and in gender-based budgeting. And I think this is important when looking at the gender equality. It's not sometimes you can look at it very traditionally and look at women's employment or social sectors or education as such. But it's even more important, I would say, to look at policies in areas like transport or agriculture, environmental protection, areas where maybe there's a lot of men working. But the policies is not only about the jobs, but also affecting the way women and men can live in the society. And if you don't take into account both genders in the planning, you would lose a lot of the abilities there. So this I think is clearly the type of work that we're doing. A couple of examples, but on the policy level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yngve, and I'm glad that we had an opportunity to hear you, because I have to admit that I was not aware of the scope of things that you're already doing, and it's great to know, and hopefully we will be able to follow and get more news about the important work that you are doing in this respect. Now, going back to our futurologist and the giant, I want to say again that we're happy that you're back in Belgrade, Dejan, although your background doesn't look like that. It looks like you're in some kind of jungle or something, but I hope that's just the Zoom background. So I wanted to ask you to tell us something very specifically about Development Center that you will be heading, or you are already heading. You have a vision to develop the Microsoft Development Center that will employ 2,000 people in Belgrade, and you plan to engage the best software engineers and program managers. So what talents will you be looking for your staff, and how will you encourage people to get ready and develop the skills that you will be looking for?
Thanks for the question, Maja. Great question here. Like, first of all, I'm not going to be heading the development center. I'm heading the business development of our development center in Serbia. So let me explain what it means, because the director of the development center, my colleague, Mr. Dragan Tomić, has been around for many years, and you know, we are proud to say that he is a partner level employee in Microsoft, and we have a partner level employee in Microsoft based in Belgrade, which is, you know, really an amazing accomplishment. The development center in Belgrade of Microsoft was established back in September 2005. You know, I had the pleasure to do that establishment again with one of my friends and colleagues, Mr. Miščević, who is now a distinguished engineer of Microsoft. It was actually a first development center that we established in Europe at that time. And over the course of 15 years, we are actually celebrating the 15th anniversary of development center. Everything's changed except for three things that are constant. The first constant thing is the fact that everything changes. The second constant thing is my email address and the email address of other people. And the third constant thing is the name of the company. Even the logo has changed. So what I would like to say is, just like with Microsoft, it is the same with our development center in Serbia. Nothing lasts forever, if you listen to Guns N' Roses. But at the end of the day, nothing is written in time. So the fact that we acknowledge the constant change, better than acknowledging the constant change is to engage in driving the change. That's the thing. Because if you are visionary, if you go outside of your comfort zone, if you do that scenario planning that I was thinking about, if you have the leadership skills to inspire the people around you, to inspire great headquarters in Microsoft about the areas of development that will be very important of the future, then you will get the investments in time, people, money. This is how we are growing our development center in Serbia. The growth is in the blood of Microsoft, in the DNA of Microsoft. The growth is obviously on the sales side, the growth in business, but in terms of the development, the growth is in the new leading edge technology, creative projects that we can seed in different development centers worldwide. And of course, we have the aspiration that Belgrade Development Center is one of the first ones. Growth cannot come for the sake of growth. Growth can come with the new ideas. New and bright ideas are possible only in diversified environment. If you're not in the diversified environment, if you are bound to one culture, to one way of thinking, if you don't have people coming from outside, as well as growing people from inside, there won't be any challenges, there won't be any disruptive thinking. So full diversity is in the DNA of Microsoft. That includes gender equality, but not only that, that includes all kinds of diversity. We have a vision to have like 2,000 people, 2,000 software engineers who want to live in Belgrade. We want to see the lineups of software engineers and product managers in United States, in Western Europe, everywhere in front of the Serbian embassies, with the desire to stand in that line for 2-3 hours to get a work permit to come and live in Belgrade. I don't expect that people will come here for retirement, but this can be a great stepping stone in their careers. This can be a great line in their resumes and CVs. This can be really a great opportunity for them to grow both personally and professionally, because they will have an opportunity to spend time in one small country in Central and East Europe that celebrates the pride of the nation and so on. So those are the things that we really aspire. We want to see the globalization of our development center. We want to make it truly global. It's difficult because obviously you can't source software engineers only from Serbia and only from the region, but that's why we want to work with also public sector in some kind of public-private partnership to advertise this environment for everybody in the world, in order to really create that vibrant, heterogeneous, diverse environment that is so critical for creativity, to spark that creativity. And again, given the fact that I'm from the technology world, where everything is really strict by the rules, the need for empathy, the need for personal human skills is even stronger, hence the great opportunity for the female generation in our Microsoft Development Center in Serbia. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you for mentioning the need for empathy. And in a way of addressing the need for empathy, I would like to ask Tanja not to leave us for just a few more minutes, because I'd like to hear from her briefly on one of the priorities in your strategy, which considers encouraging investment in innovation, especially among women-owned businesses. So what is the economic and social potential in this field, if you could tell us at least briefly?
Of course, and I have to apologize really, because I have plane to catch. I know it's strange in the situation that we are, but the regional issues could not be solved only using Zoom. Exactly. So we started from the basic notion, which is, I think, also known to all of you, that women represent less than 1/3 of the business owners, actually 27.5%. If there is a full scale of development in that, if there is a potential for the full scale development in that area, the Western Balkan GDP could be 20% higher, which is enormous whale for using the possibilities for development. In that respect, we start, and we actually did, together with the West Balkan 6 economies only a month and a half ago, if I'm not wrong, together and on the auspice of the European Commission, the engineer, we prepared, endorsed by leaders, common regional market. There lies also potentials for your Microsoft Center, as we envisage the introduction of the free movement of labor, with the introduction of the mutual recognition of not only academic diplomas, but also skills, which is so the different type of qualifications that are needed for those people to move freely, and additionally traveling with ID in the region. So unique opportunities, something that resemble the EU Schengen area for the Western Balkans, that can also be an important part of once when you, Mr. Cvetković, are trying to find those 2,000 people for your Microsoft Center. In that document, so the common regional market, we put some of the priorities as the opportunities as well as the challenges for the rapid innovation and technological development for gender equality, and as well as the woman empowerment and the importance of innovation. if you look at entrepreneurship, gender segregation is more than evident in this field. And women are more likely to set up businesses in the informal economy and low pay sector, and they lack access to credit and networks, which is well-known fact. But we are actually thinking how to reverse the trend, how to change it. And that's why we would like to support Western Balkan 6 to provide a better support for women's entrepreneurship and insist on encouraging innovation investment by giving them access to technical, scientific, innovative and business networks. So instead of being locked in the economies of each and every of the Western Balkan 6, we would like to provide, as the RCC, as CEFTA, a wider market for all of them to participate in, with the basic knowledge and understanding that women play a crucial role in maximizing human capital development, in improving innovation, in inclusion and growth in the economy, in acquiring the competitive advantage and in boosting the attractiveness of the whole regional market. So by making all available instruments at disposal, we would like to enable them to complete their education and to compete with men and thrive in both social and economic sense. In order to make this happen, we need, of course, the synergies, and that is what we are coordinating, actually, the regional governments, but also businesses. Enormously important role of the civil society organization that we did not tackle today, but I'm sure that there will be an opportunity to discuss this, as well as, and I'm sorry that Zuzana is not with us, with the IFI, so the international financial institution that could help and provide bigger support. So there is enormous potential to include and to give the boost and empowerment to the woman. But we also need to help them to unleash that potential by different type of measures, both national and regional. Thank you very much. Back to you, Maja.
Thank you so much, Tanja, and we wish you a safe trip wherever you are going. We agree that Zoom cannot replace everything, but it can replace a lot, and even has some advantages, like having Yngve here with us today. I'm afraid, Yngve, I will have to apologize to you for not being able to offer you a second question, because our organizers are reminding us that we have to close down. If it's comfort, I have decided not to give any summary. Just wanted to say for the end something that I've been thinking about as I was listening to you. I would like actually to remind us all that empowering women economically is not a zero-sum game, meaning when women gain, men lose. I think the case is just the opposite. And empowering women economically and in other ways actually strengthens our societies, makes them more balanced, makes them richer, but also happier. And with this, I'd like to close and thank all the participants and the audience that was with us here today. Thank you.